Uh, but it really begins when we had our last Pesach here in Bet Shemesh with the whole family, and there were so many people, and I thought back that as a kid, Pesach, the real joy of Pesach was going out on Mermaid Avenue and walking to the shul, to the synagogue, because that was the street where all the Jews came out, and they would greet each other, Good Yontif, Good Shabbos if there was a Friday night involved. And it was really something very, very exciting. And I used to do this with my pop, with my dad, because Mom stayed with Clarence usually inside because he couldn't do that long walk. But I'll get back to that later on. At any rate, this is a very strong memory. And our holidays, really, the Pesach itself was very simple, just the four of us having a nice meal and just being together. With Clarence, we had a very interesting relationship all our lives, I think, because on the one hand, he was my teacher. Everything I wanted to know, he told me. On the other hand, I was his caregiver, and I still remember moving him in a carriage on the boardwalk when we lived in the Italian neighborhood, which was my very first memories. He wasn't home that much then because he was off for treatments in President Roosevelt's facility. But when he was with me, we were very much together.
You said you used to go to synagogue.
Yeah.
Were you religious family?
My family stopped being religious, actually has anger against God because of the financial breakdown in 1929, and they lost everything. My dad had a store in Pittsburgh where he sold the equipment to the miners, and they were all good friends, and it was something very warm, I understand. I mean, I wasn't there. Then two things happened, or three things all at once. He lost all his money, and the store just couldn't stand anymore, and he kept giving things away on credit until the store was empty. And they came to New York then, and he was working in a sweatshop. I was born, and Clarence just shortly afterwards got polio. So it was like God had gone against them and was really punishing them. And so they just sort of said, we're not going to be religious anymore. On the other hand, they did send me to yeshiva, much against my will, but no, it was the yeshiva of Brighton Beach. I was there until like 10 and a half when I got out. But that's another story.
Your father was...
He was a communist.
Okay.
He was a communist. He used to read the Forward's newspaper, and he'd translate for me from the Yiddish to English, and he would always say, what I translate is übergesetzt und verbessert, meaning turned over into English, but improved. And that's the way he used to tell his stories. They would always be improved.
And what was the song that you said that he used to
Well, he sang this beautiful song in Russian. Tsar испудался и дал манифест, мирот вим свободу, а живым под арест. Which means the Tsar was feeling good, so he gave out a declaration. All the dead can be freed, but those living in jail. That was it. Beginning, we were living in the Italian area, and that was really around 4 streets, but going from Gravesend Bay all the way down to Surf Avenue, meaning all the way down to the sea, was all Italian. All Italian except for one kosher butcher shop where they all bought. There was a big stable, because in those days there were still workhorses. There were cars and trucks and like that, but there were also workhorses, and they had to be fed. So people that had the horses, they would bring them there to the stable and they spend the nights there. It had a delicious smell. I used to go by every day when I could. And nearby there was also a slaughterhouse for chickens, where we used to go and get the chickens and then pluck them at home. The smells were amazing between the slaughterhouse on the one hand and the stable on the other, and the Italian cooking all over the place. That was the main thing that I can remember. It was really, I'd go out like that every day, and then if I'd come home with bread, I'd eat half of it until I got home. And from there, we moved on to Neptune Avenue. This was a 4-story building, and we were up on the top, which was very difficult because we had to get the clearance up and down every time. But that's where we were. It was a new neighborhood for me. It was a neighborhood that, when I got there, I remember walking up the street, and the kids from the neighborhood, the local gang, who scared the hell out of me then, but afterwards I realized they were more frightened of me than anything else. They really scared me, and I didn't know what to do because they were coming to get me. And I saw in the building itself there was a small opening, and I crawled in even though I was afraid of the dark, and it was pitch black in there. But I was more afraid of them than of the dark, and I jumped in. And I think they were frightened also, because they were standing outside and they were saying, "Come out, we're not going to hurt you, come out, come out." And I was just sitting there, and little by little I got used to sitting on the coals. I heard the rats moving around, but they didn't bother me. And I sat there for a long time. I came out black, and they'd already gone away. And 1 or 2 found me, and they sort of said, "We didn't want to do anything, we just wanted to scare you at the beginning." At any rate, I really had nothing to do with them. I went straight home. My mom took me, washed me, and the first and last time ever when I came home looking a mess, she didn't ask me what happened. She just took care of me. And that was really a very warm memory.
And you moved, you moved where?
Well, first of all, from there we moved to a house, which was a house that we really lived in right up until I went to Israel. And it was a house that had a little place for a garden around it. And I was able to work there. And everything I found out from Clarence, I mean, I don't know how he knew these things, but he told me marigolds grow well. So I went and I got some marigold seeds, and I planted them. And first of all, he had me get all kinds of garbage. He said the Indians used to put fish next to the corn to make it grow. So we don't really have to do that. You can just take all things from the garbage that look like they can melt down into the earth, and they'll make the ground better. And so I did all the work, and I got the soil ready, and I put in the seeds, and sure enough, within 2 or 3 weeks we had flowers already coming up all over. It was beautiful. And a week or so later, the area was full of, we call them prodenia here, but little caterpillars that were eating holes into the leaves, and also little black things that were eating into the leaves, and they were just having a wonderful time, and little by little the garden was disappearing. And I said, "Clarence, what do I do?" He says, "No problem, gather up cigarette butts." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, they're all over the streets, bring a whole bunch." So I said, "Okay." Clarence says I do. I went out and I gathered, and there was no problem gathering them up, especially there was a bar at the corner. Got a whole bag full of cigarette butts, and I said, now what? He said, well, take the tobacco out from the paper, throw the paper away, and put all the tobacco into a little receptacle, a little can. I did that, and I said, now what? He said, well, the can is full. I said, yes. He said, now put it in a bucket with water and heat it up over the gas. So I put it in with water, just like he said, and I heated it up. And I said, how much? He said, not to boil, just that it's really good and hot. Okay, and I said, okay, it's good and hot. He said, turn off the gas, wait till it cools down, and then put it into a sprinkler, and sprinkle the tobacco water all over the garden. I did this, and by the next morning, you saw all the dead insects, and the garden grew all the way from that time on to the end. I mean, they never came back.
How old were you guys then?
I was around 9, I think. No, maybe 10. Not 10. I was about 10 years old because we just moved from Neptune. I was 10 years old when we moved from Neptune.
And Clarence?
Clarence was around 14, so he was always 4 years older than me. I couldn't figure out, I really don't know where he got that from. But it was amazing, and I can tell anybody who wants to do gardening, if you have trouble with insects and you're looking for a simple way, just heat up some tobacco.
You have to tell about the polar bears.
Well, I'm getting to the polar bears.
That was just before that.
Little by little, I'll get to the polar bears club, but I just have to talk about Clarence a little bit because we had this very strange relationship. First of all, it took me a long time to get outside friends. As I got older, I got more and more because he was limited and he was going to school already. At the beginning, he wasn't, so we were together. So I was a caregiver on one hand, and he was my teacher on the other. And it was clear that I was like the representative to the neighborhood. The foreign minister looking out for contacts with all the kids and like that. And he was the prime minister because he knew everything. And we sort of worked together that way. It was a very interesting and very warm and yet competitive relationship because I figured I really had to work hard because he had a lot of charisma and people liked him immediately.
Beat him in chess.
Thank you.
Get the short chess.
He taught me chess, but this leads me to talk about a very fascinating man who was, I think, a mentor for both of us. I used to take him out in the good weather to the park, which is up around Gravesend Bay, and there was a fire department. And outside the fire department, there were tables and chairs, and there was what I thought then was an old man. He must have been all of 40. But he was out of work and he had just enough money to get by on. Again, the depression broke him, and he'd be there every day and he'd play chess with anybody who wanted to play chess. And he taught Clarence how to play, and I saw the two of them playing, and I wanted to play too. And he taught me how to play. And he talked to us about life. I learned really so much about him, but I think the most important thing I learned that he said was that even if you have nothing, you can be happy because you decide to be happy, and then you'll enjoy a game of chess and meeting two kids like you. Or you can just cry about it even if you have $1 million. I took that to me because our family were never rich, and I tried to live that way. I played with Clarence all the time. I think maybe I beat him once in 4 years, but it was an almost impossible task. On the other hand, I got better and better every time, so that I was able to teach chess in the kibbutz and be sort of like a local chess maven. But that was it. And then we come to the summer times, and I was already touching puberty, and I didn't know what to do with myself. But in the summertime, we used to live on the beach. And it's like, get up in the morning, go to the beach, have something to eat at noontime, a baggie I took with me, and 5 o'clock in the evening, I'd get back. So I didn't have to shower, and that was a wonderful thing. And little by little, the salt got on our hands, all the kids, and we used to send messages like that and say, here, take a look. And when September came around, you'd have to start showering again because you go to school. I really did not like that idea. So as soon as we finished school, I'd go back to the sea. It was cold, but I'd go back and I'd try and get in the water. And one day I met a whole gang of old people, at least 40 years old, maybe even more. And they came running down, and they were drinking whiskey and jumping in the water, so I jumped in with them. They said, you can't, you can't. I said, why not? He said, you're not a member. And a member of what? This is the Coney Island Polar Bear Club, they tell me. I said, okay, but the ocean's free. So they said, you can't come with us. I said, why not? So they looked and they thought and they said, okay, if you can stand it, you're with us. But go home now, come, and you have to bring a, what do you call it, a chaluk?
Robe.
A bathrobe. You have to bring a bathrobe. Everybody has a bathrobe. Okay, I came the next day with the bathrobe. There I am. They give me a glass of whiskey. They say, drink. I say, what? I say, drink. I drink. I'm tearing, but I feel hot. And they say, now you go into the water. And we all ran in together. And I was freezing cold. And I was swimming around, and it was cool. It was really exciting. And I came out, and they clapped their hands. They gave me another whiskey, and I became the youngest member of the Coney Island Polar Bear Club, which Nuri tells me was the first polar bear club in the United States.
Who taught you to swim?
Oh, that's a good question. I taught myself, actually. In Coney Island, I tried to swim, and I kept glug, 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 going under, until at one point I saw I was moving, so I kept it up that way. So I was never a good-looking swimmer, but I managed. I was swimming with the waves, and that was something that you don't have in a swimming pool. And when I got to a school with a swimming pool, which was only in junior high, I didn't like it that much. I just felt that I was born to just swim. I mean, I would swim, but I couldn't breathe underwater very well. I just and come down. I still do that, so I can swim. I just forgot to mention, and I really should, because I have a lot of respect for that man, but that was Mr. Kaplan, who taught us, the chess player. And he was much more than a chess player. He was a man who was living his life in the way he chose to live it under the circumstances that he was given. I felt him completely relaxed all the time. And he was a model for me. So yes, Mr. Kaplan.